And that brings us to Ask Us, where we take your questions on the pandemic to experts to help make sense of these tough times. We get your questions from our website, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And for the record, Facebook is a funder of the NewsHour. Amna Nawaz has more.
Thanks, Judy, and thanks to all of you for sending us your questions. Now, parents and grandparents are dealing with even more responsibilities these days, taking on new roles as teachers and counselors, in addition to caregivers. A lot of you sent us questions about parenting in the pandemic. To answer them, we're joined by Dr. Sarah Vinson, a child and adolescent psychiatrist. She's also the former president of the Georgia Council on Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, and she joins us now from Atlanta. Dr. Vinson, welcome to the NewsHour. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So let's jump right into the questions now. Our very first one comes from Ann Stringer. She's a grandmother from Mays Landing, New Jersey. She reached out to on Facebook, and this is Ann's question. She says, I feel anxious and closed off with my adult girls back home. Also, my son is overwhelmed with his 3 kids. Any tips for our multi-generational family? Dr. Vinson, what advice can you give Ann?
So the advice I give Ann is going to be similar to the advice I'm giving everyone right now, is to focus on the things that you have control over and that you can change. And so we can't change the fact that people are sort of cooped up or that your family have a lot of extra responsibilities right now, but we can still be intentional about making connections with people and talking and interacting in whatever ways make the most sense for us. So that can look like playing board games electronically, doing FaceTime, just calling to catch up, but just looking for ways to be active and involved in your grandchildren's lives and being another touch point for them in a positive way.
Those are all great tips. Good luck to Ann out there. Let's go to our next question now. It comes from Julie Guerin. She's in Napa, California. She also reached out on Facebook, and Julie sent us this video.
Some parents are beginning to let their kids socialize. How can I keep my kids safe and still let them connect with friends in person? I'm making sure that my kids wash their hands and I'm monitoring their proximity to others, but other parents may not be.
Dr. Vinson, how do you do that? How do you keep your own kids safe, and can you still let them safely socialize with other kids?
So like anything else when it comes to parenting, there's sort of a risk-benefit analysis that you do, right? When your child is learning to drive, you're afraid of letting them do that, but you know it's sort of part of what they need to do in order to progress. And so now we're in post-COVID world or COVID world where part of parenting is thinking about these things. And so just like if you were going to have your kids go over for a party at someone's house or a play date, you may ask questions about, are the parents going to be there? What's the level of supervision? Those sorts of things. You get more information so that you can make a decision as a parent about if this is safe enough for me to feel comfortable with them going. So under these conditions, I think it's completely fine for you to ask questions about whether their friend has been sheltering in place, what precautions they have taken, if people are going to be wearing masks when they're getting together. And those are all pieces of information you have a right to as a parent. And using that information, you can then make a decision about whether it makes sense to move forward with that in-person play date or not. I do think that that is going to be really helpful for children from a mental health standpoint to be able to talk and interact with their friends. And so there are ways that we can make this safer if everybody's wearing masks, if we're asking those questions, and those sorts of things.
The risk-benefit analysis of parenting we all know so well. Let's go on to another question now. This is from L.H. Phillips. She works in education in Arkansas. She submitted this question to us on Facebook. She writes, quote, we were thrust into this situation with little preparation. What will we do with students who are poorly prepared when schools reopen? Dr. Vinson, it's such a good question. What can you say to L.H.?
This transition back is going to be a challenge for teachers, for administrators, for parents, and especially for the children. And I do think there are ways that we're going to see pre-existing gaps in education that get bigger as a result of people being home for so long. And so the next question is, well, what do we do? And I think that there is time now for us to have conversations with school districts, with administrators, with state decision makers around the kinds of supports that we need to have in place for kids, both from an academic standpoint and an emotional standpoint, when they go back to school, to give them a better chance at this being a successful transition.
So important to point out the problems existed before will still be there post-pandemic. Our final question now comes to us from Holly Joseph. She's in the Bay Area in California. She reached out to us on Twitter, and Holly sent us this video.
How do we keep kids engaged in distance learning versus just completing their assigned tasks?
Dr. Vincent, Holly is in my husband Paul and my heads. How do we do this? This is so difficult for so many parents homeschooling right now.
Parents are being asked to do something that is a skilled profession. And so my advice is look for ways that it applies, that makes sense for you and that makes sense for the child, and that you can demonstrate sort of in the home setting. So it could be something like playing Monopoly together if you're talking about money and making change. So looking for things that use those principles that they're using in school, but in a practical way, where you're able to engage with them. Looking for ways that you can incorporate that into activities that you do as a family.
Good luck to all the parents out there. Dr. Sarah Vincent, thank you so much for being with us and taking these questions today.
Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for your questions. You can send us more anytime via NewsHour's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram accounts, or on our website. That's pbs.org/newshour.
And online, we have more tips for parents on talking to children about the virus and their feelings. That too is on our website, pbs.org/newshour.